Good evening, everyone, and welcome to AZMR on Zed Digital. I'd like to start episode 3 by acknowledging that this episode was created on the stolen lands of the Jagera and Turrbal peoples. I'd like to pay respects to the elders, past and present, and I'd like to acknowledge that sovereignty over this land was never ceded. Thank you for tuning in to AZMR on Zed Digital. My name is Polly, and I'm here to take you through for the next 2 hours of ASMR radio. ASMR radio. ASMR content. Low sensory radio. We're going to have a cute time, I think. We're going to have a cute time. If you'd like to follow on the social medias, we are on Instagram and Facebook as AzZzMR.full ZZ. If you come along, you can message your feedback or comment your feedback. If you prefer more whispered content, or if you'd prefer more soft spoken, I'm kind of going for a mixture of the two at the moment. A little bit more soft spoken because I think it is a little bit more radio friendly, with some whispered in between. But if you'd like to hear a whole episode of whispered, episode 1 was entirely whispered. So let me know your feedback. Which do you like? Do you like one not at all and one a little bit? I don't know. I just don't know unless you tell me. Today's episode is I'm back in my band room because my cat was making an appearance pretty much the whole time for episode 2, and it's a bit annoying. I did get some feedback that some people liked hearing her pipe up, but I guess I edited it out a lot more of it. Like, there were some more occasions where it was just she would not shut up, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just have to cut out that whole chunk. But it's fine. We will probably do another episode back at home so that she can make an appearance. But for now, I'm in the band room, touching stuff, reading stuff, looking at stuff, touching stuff. You get it. You can listen to this episode, or last week's episode, or the week before's episode on the 4ZZZ on-demand service. That's 4ZZZ.org.au/program/AZZZMR. You can go back and listen to those episodes and have a cute time. Maybe you can't get to sleep. Maybe it's not Saturday night and you're listening from the future. Welcome to you from the future. Welcome to you from the present. Welcome, everybody. On tonight's episode 3, we have reading of Nintendo magazine game reviews, but only the games that didn't receive a very good review because those are funner, obviously. We have some bubble wrap because I got some bubble wrap from work. Someone was like, hey Polly, you like bubble wrap? And I was like, that I do. So we have a bubble wrap moment. We have a recipe that I'm going to read to you from a One Piece recipe book. I don't know if you know One Piece. It's my favorite television program. It's an anime about pirates. It's very good. And it's very long. There are many episodes. So there's a cookbook that my brother got me, and I read you a recipe from that cookbook, which if you wanted to follow along to make the recipe, you might have to pause it a little bit, but I think it is possible. But maybe I will make a recipe after listening to myself read the recipe and see how it goes and let you know if it's actually possible. We also have a segment by the wonderful Liz Witt. Liz Witt. They are our extra special guest this evening. Very exciting. I hope they will become a regular guest because I'm excited to get different content for you. And I just really like them as a person. So we're going to have a very cute time. And of course, we finish the show with some piano. Just some gentle piano to help you drift off to sleep. So, thank you for tuning in to AZMR tonight, episode 3. Let's get stuck in. We're going to be reading the worst reviews in the official Nintendo magazine for Australia and New Zealand. This issue is February 2010. On the cover is a picture of Ryu and Chun-Li from Street Fighter, and it says Ryu's back. So, Street Fighter on the Wii. This was a few consoles ago, so let's see what kind of reviews we've got here. Okay, so I guess I've just chosen the poor reviews because, I don't know, for fun. So, only reviews of 50% or less, I guess, because they give them a percent at the end of like how much percent is it worth your money. Let's start with WiiWare Manic Monkey Mayhem. Developer Code Monkeys. Multiplayer 1 to 4 players. Price 1,000 points. I think WiiWare are ones that you can download from. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. Back in the box. Our Manic Mayhem sensors aren't picking up much here. At least a third of this game's title is accurate in that it does have monkeys in it. Unfortunately, the Manic Mayhem is limited to jumping across platforms and throwing bananas at monkeys while dodging the ones they chuck at you. There would be nothing wrong with the premise if the throwing mechanic wasn't so wildly imprecise. The remote's not precise enough to accurately measure your throw strength, and as a result, the whole thing is painfully frustrating. There's no reason for this to exist. There are countless better games than Manic Monkey Mayhem now available on WiiWare, so we would strongly suggest you look elsewhere for your monkey troubling needs, if you have such needs, of course. Verdict: not a strong game by any means. Monkeys don't always make for comedy, it seems. 38%. Well, it's a great review of Manic Monkey Mayhem. Wii Virtual Console. Wii Virtual Console. Maybe this is the one you download. I don't remember. Maybe they all are. Fighting Street. Fighting Street. Developer Capcom. Multiplayer 1 to 2 players. Price 800 points. Here's one for history fans. Fighting Street is the TurboGrafx version of the original Street Fighter. No, we're not talking about Street Fighter 2 with Chun-Li, Guile, and Ken and all that. We mean the first Street Fighter. The one that was total rubbish. There's no character select screen here. No Blanca, E Honda, or M Bison. You can only play as one character, Ryu, or Ken if it's a 2-player fight. The game sees you working your way through numerous one-on-one fights until you're crowned the Street Fighter, Fighting Street champion. It's really not worth bothering with though, because the controls are clunky, the AI is rubbish, and if you had half an ounce of sense, you'd download Super Street Fighter 2 on the SNES instead. If it had been 300 points, we'd still be calling it a waste of your hard-earned dosh. But at 800 points, the only kicking that'll be getting dished out is the one your brain will take when it realizes what you've done. Verdict. Really not worth getting unless you absolutely have to have every Street Fighter. 34%. 34%. Good. That's a good review. I think we made the right decision choosing the bad reviews only. This is another WiiWare. The game is Shutanto. Evolutionary Mayhem. Developer Hudson Soft. Multiplayer no. Price 500 points. Oh, it's got little captions on the tiny photos. Jurassic crap. If you didn't say clever girl when you saw this, you fail. It's a little picture of a velociraptor. Okay. What's going on at Hudson Soft? Seriously, there's just no way to gauge the quality of its games these days. 1 minute it's releasing the likes of Onslaught and the upcoming Bonk remake. Then the next it's churning out pap like this. Shutanto is a shooting gallery where you play as a monkey, don't ask, that has to take out hordes of different characters from different parts of the evolutionary cycle. Your weapon is horribly inaccurate though, and your monkey moves incredibly slowly, so it's frustrating when trying to avoid the shots fired back at you. Shutanto is at a very primitive stage of evolution. Avoid like the plague. Verdict. If you're after a shooting game on WiiWare, go for Wild West Guns instead. 40%. Good. This one is another WiiWare. Maizu. Developer Hudson Soft. Multiplayer no. Price 500 points. We don't get this. Having plagued the DS software library for years, the virtual pet genre has now arrived on WiiWare, and it's just as rubbish as ever. Maizu lets you take care of a wide variety of animals, from pandas to hippos, but there's very little interaction to be had. You can feed them, complete with a horribly basic animation, clean up their horrendously voluminous poo, and stroke them. That's about it. Once they grow, you can breed them to unlock new playpens, but that's really all there is to it. We don't have anything against virtual pet games, as long as they offer plenty to do. But my zoo is so simple it makes Nintendogs look like an advanced quantum physics textbook. If, for whatever reason, you want a virtual pet game, then we're afraid there's still not really anything worth recommending on the Wii. This included Verdict. Extremely basic stuff. This is one WiiWare game that'll have kids bored fairly quickly. 32%. 32%. 32%. Not great news for my zoo on the WiiWare. Okay. Now we've got WiiWare. Rabbids Lab. Developer Ubisoft. Multiplayer? No. Price 500 points. That's a surprise because normally the Rayman Raving Rabbids games are multiplayer. Okay, let's see what it says. This is a short one. Rabbids Lab is a blatant cash-in on Rabbids Go Home. This is a very limited version of the Rabbit customization feature in the main game, with loads of the tools and props taken out. 500 points for what's essentially a demo of a minigame? Sorry Ubisoft, that's just scandalous. 30%. 30%. 30%. Next, WiiWare Copter Crisis. Copter Crisis. Developer Digital Leisure. Multiplayer? No. Price 500 points. An ugly helicopter game with inaccurate controls, PS1 standard graphics, and dull missions that don't ask you to do that much. We like the idea of a helicopter game on the Wii, and fair play to the developer for trying something different, but it just isn't that fun to play, we're afraid. 43%. 43%. 43%. Next is WiiWare Dragon Master. Dragon Master. Developer Stickman Studios. Multiplayer 1 to 2 players. Price 500 points. A game where you ride on a dragon and attack people can't be a bad thing, can it? Well, when the dragon is impossible to control thanks to its dodgy nunchuck tilting control scheme, and the annoying camera has you looking up your dragon's backside most of the time, it certainly can be. 23%. 23%. 23%. 23%. That's a fairly poor review for the Dragon Master. I'd say we shouldn't get that game, everybody. Let's not get that game. Now, WiiWare Uno. Developer Gameloft. Multiplayer 1 to 4 players. Price 500 points. If you're the sort who spent their whole childhood with these newfangled video game things, Uno might have passed you by. It's a card game for up to 6 players, where the object is to get rid of your cards as quickly as possible. This Wii version comes with support for up to 4 players, But considering the whole point of the game is that you're not meant to know which cards your friends have, we're not convinced it's much use. There's full online multiplayer, which is Wii Speak compatible, but you can only talk to people on your friends list. So if your mate is hosting the game, you will hear them talking to people you don't know and not hear their replies. For 500 points, it's decent value, and if you're playing online and have 3 pals on each other's friend list, it can be good fun. Otherwise, you're really better off just splashing out the extra cash on the original card game. Verdict: a decent take on the popular card game, but its lack of privacy defeats the purpose. 52%, 52%, 52%. I know we said we were only doing reviews under 50%, but I thought I might like to read their review of the Wii game. Okay, well, it's done now, so there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, apparently those were just the short reviews, so there's some longer reviews. Tony Hawk Ride. Tony Hawk Ride. It looks like Tony has been taken for one. Publisher: Activision. Developer: Buzz Monkey. Multiplayer: 1 to 8 players. Release: out now. The beauty of video games is that price very rarely barges its way into the buying process. Thanks to price tags being roughly the same across the board, the only decision is based on quality. With Tony Hawk Ride, the question of cost is unavoidable. Before you've even started playing the game, it has a point to prove, starting out, in effect, south of zero and desperately needing to clamber up a few rungs in your estimations. As it goes, the price factor, it costs a whopping $179.95, is not even the biggest shocker here. It's exacerbated by the fact that you can only play Ride with the very reason for that wallet assault, the enormous white elephant that is the wireless board controller. Put simply, it doesn't work nearly well enough to justify the price or the exclusion of any other control method. Apparently, it's all Tony Hawk's idea. Get rid of complex button combinations and allow a dynamic hands-free gaming experience. Apparently, it's all Tony Hawk's idea. Get rid of complex button combinations and allow a dynamic hands-free gaming experience. And surely you've got a skateboarding game that's as close to the real thing as it's possible to get without smashing your funny bone. Nice idea in theory, but what you actually get is an absolute mess of a game. Early, gentler levels are simple enough to get the hang of, but as you progress to more complex urban courses, the board's limitations are quickly exposed. You push off by sliding your foot past one of the sensors on either side of the board. That's fine. Leaning left and right steers, that's okay too. In fact, on the simplest difficulties setting, steering is taken care of for you. There are plenty of tutorial videos and open park space for you to practice not falling over in, and so far the only bugbear is lengthy load times. As a first impression, you get the sneaking suspicion you could be onto something rather wonderful. That quickly withers as you get up the confidence to try something more demanding. There's a basic breakdown in communication between you, the game, and the board after the getting to know you sections, as if the three parts of the triangle hate each other's guts. You tell the game to do something a bit trickier than a grab or a kickflip, and it goes, yeah, no props. Great, you think, and the game even flashes up the little icon that confirms your command has been registered. But you'll suddenly clock that no matter how much you wiggle the board or wave your feet about, the board is completely ignoring both you and the game. Sometimes it works adequately, and for moments it feels great, like actual skateboarding on a robust board built almost as if to withstand actually being stamped on and scraped along curbs. That just makes it even more galling when it sticks its fingers in its ears at your prompting. Chainbreaker, of course. That means a lot of frustration when it comes to completing later challenges. Anything that requires a degree of precision is virtually impossible. If you want to chain together a series of moves, you'll often fail on two fronts. One, it's hit and miss as to whether the game or the board, or either, pays any attention to you. And two, there's a small but often chain-breaking delay between your gesture and the moves being performed. In the speed, trick, and free skate modes, it's not so crucial because your progress through the game doesn't depend so much on skill. It depends more on waggling the board about to see what happens and rack up substantial scores. Against other players, the sensitivity problems are an unintentionally hilarious bonus, but in challenge mode it's a game breaker, and it's really not very funny at all. The game design is far short of inspired, but if the board worked, that would all have been glossed over. Skating itself would have been great fun, and you wouldn't have noticed the paltry free skating areas or the pedestrian race segments. Weighing up whether to buy ride is almost like adopting new hardware. It's exciting in principle, but you need to see what comes out for it and how it works. In Ride's case, there's one game that uses that board and little prospect of future support. DJ Hero just about justified its price tag, but crucially, it worked. Ride, on the other hand, is just plain broken. Review by Simon Bramble. Verdict: Pro, good idea at first. Pro, well-built board controller. Con, which means you can't smash it. Con, Kyle Sanderland's sensitivity. Con, poor game design. The board looks the part, but it just doesn't work. A bizarre, galling folly that must be avoided. 44%. In another section of this review, they've put chairman of the boards. We check out the ride board's main competitor. It's a table. It's got several boards across the top and several categories with which to judge them. Surfboard. Uses: rides waves, guarding modesty on beaches, ironing trunks on. 4 skateboards. The scores are out of skateboards. Out of 5. Build: sturdy in choppy waters, flimsy against most major shark attacks. 3 skateboards. Quality: totally sporty, even down to the slick go faster fin on the bottom. 4 skateboards. Cost: anywhere from $400 to a couple of grand. 3 skateboards. Score: 14. Ride board. That's the one from the game. Uses: Tony Hawk ride. That's it so far. Might make a good drinks tray. 2 skateboards. Build: sturdy. Police could use it to bust indoors. Means you can't break it in anger. 4 skateboards. Quality: it's brown and grey. About as sporty then as 1970s Australia. 2 skateboards. Cost: buckle up. A whopping, uncompromising $179.95. 2 skateboards. Score: 10. Ironing board. Uses: putting creases in jeans, eating your dinner off in front of the TV. 5 skateboards. Build: cuts off more fingers than your average baby buggy. Terrifying. 1 skateboard. Quality: have you seen extreme ironing? Sport doesn't get any harder. 5 skateboards. Cost: $20 from Kmart. 4 skateboards. Score: 15. Cupboard. Uses: housing zombies, hiding gateways to C.S. Lewis fantasy worlds. 4 skateboards. Build: chipboard or mahogany. All they need to do is stand and open. 3 skateboards. Quality: put some wheels on it, and it might suffice as a big go-kart at a push. 2 skateboards. Cost: strangely, they seem to get more expensive the older they get. 2 skateboards. Score: 11. Verdict: a surprising victory for the ironing board then, despite its scary mechanics, thanks to versatility and extreme sports. Essentially, it's the polar opposite of the ride board. Great, that was a good little intermission from reading reviews. Let's see what we've got. Next review is a game called Wheelspin. Wheelspin. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the worst Wii game ever. Trademark. Publisher: Bethesda. Developer: Awesome Play. Multiplayer: 1 to 8 players. Release: out now. When Wheelspin was announced, the hype started early, promising unpredictable racetracks at accelerating speeds of up to 650 kilometers per hour, and a frantically fast-paced game which pushes the Wii to its maximum capabilities. We were hopeful that the game would live up to these hopelessly inflated ambitions. As it is, the hype train might as well have stayed at the station. On paper, the game sounds like an impressive achievement. It supports multiple control schemes: Wii Remote, Nunchuck, Classic Controller, and GameCube Controller. claims to run at a smooth 60 frames per second and offers 8-player split-screen multiplayer. In practice though, this all falls apart quicker than a roll of toilet paper in a car wash. Regardless of which control system you opt for, the handling is atrocious. Unless the road is completely flat, you're going to struggle to maintain control of your car. And given that each of the game's tracks have loop-the-loops, corkscrews, and banked turns all over the place, you can pretty much forget staying on the track for an acceptable period of time. It's wheelie bad. There's a pun with the word wheel. We're not bad at racing games, but this reviewer and a couple of other staff members dotted around the office all tried to get round a course without spinning all over the place, and all failed miserably. Some will argue this makes for a good challenge, but we beg to differ. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and it's a sign of extremely lazy development. How about that 8-player split screen? That's got to be fun, eh? Admittedly, we like how well it detects every type of controller that's connected. We played with 3 GameCube controllers, 3 Wii remotes, a nunchuck, and a classic controller. Then the race started, and it was business as usual. Those 60 frames a second claims were quickly blown out of the water, and it became abundantly clear that it doesn't matter how many people are playing if the game's as much fun as having a bath in a tub full of irate porcupines. We started with 8 players, but by the end of the race, only 3 were still playing. Others had either given up in frustration or crashed near a loop-the-loop, caught in an endless cycle that saw them respawning in front of the loop and not being able to pick up enough speed to clear it, falling again and again. Amazing. Wheel spin might have a smooth frame rate in single player at least, but that counts for nothing. A racing game can be as smooth as the Fonz, but if it handles like a yacht in a storm, it's to be avoided at all costs. Review by Chris Scullion. Chris Scullion. Verdict. All of them are cons. Handling is beyond a joke. Graphics are abysmal. Atrocious physics. Illogical respawn points. Horribly generic soundtrack. You might as well chuck your cash down the drain. At least you'll be able to control where it's going. 11%. 11%. 11%. Okay, that looks like all the poor reviews. There's some better reviews, but I don't think they will be as fun. People have a lot of feelings when things are bad, as we learnt in previous episodes, where we read people's feelings about architecture. So, I didn't read out all the captions for the pictures, which there are quite a few pictures, quite a few captions, but I didn't feel like explaining all of the pictures, so you're just gonna have to use your imagination there. That's the kind of quality content you will get on AZMR. AZMR. That's where we are. For the next part of the show, I have some bubble wrap that I picked up from work. If you're a regular listener of Kids with Class Kicking Ass, which is my program on the 102.1 FM station of 4ZZZ on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. till midday. You might know that I like bubble wrap. I think it started, well, it didn't start there, but one time someone left some bubble wrap in the studio, and I think I was just popping it all the way through whatever interviews we had that day. Which, I'm not, I'm pretty annoying, I guess, but, it heightened. Everyone can expect, a sort of level of shenanigans with that program. Anyway, I'm very used to popping bubble wrap, into the radio, so I thought I'd just do that for some ASMR, which, it'll be cute. Maybe. Let's see. It's quite a big bit. Should have gotten a smaller bit for easy handling. Oh. That one was a bit sad. Some of them have been pre-popped. So that's what I got for, probably by me, let's be honest. Thank you for tuning into AZMR and listening to me popping bubble wrap. It's hours of enjoyment here. Put it away. For the next part of the show, we're going to read out a recipe. You can follow along, but you might have to pause it because cooking takes time. Cooking takes time. This recipe is from One Piece Pirate Recipes by Sanji. Over 40 recipes for life on the high seas. The recipe is Tom's Workers Kokoro's curry rice, packed with spices, a proper Indian style curry. Serves 4. Ingredients: filling, 2 chicken breasts, 18 ounces or 500 grams, 1 teaspoon of salt, a little black pepper, 2 potatoes, 1 carrot, 3/4 ounce or 20 grams of butter, and 4 servings of cooked rice. Sauce: 2 cloves of garlic peeled, 1 knob of ginger peeled, 1 onion peeled, 1 celery stalk, 2 tomatoes, 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil, half a tablespoon of honey, 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of curry powder, about 3 cups or 700 ml of chicken stock, 2 bay leaves, 1½ teaspoons of salt, half a tablespoon of garam masala, Chinese onion or soy pickled vegetable relish if desired. Steps. Step 1. Cut chicken into bite-sized pieces and season with pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt. Peel potatoes and carrot and chop roughly. Mince garlic, ginger, onion and celery. Cut tomatoes into large pieces. Step 2. Pour 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil into a pan and stir-fry garlic and ginger on medium heat. When fragrant, add onions and celery, cooking until they soften. Add honey and continue stir-frying briefly until the mixture begins to brown. Step 3. Add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to the pan on low heat. Add flour and curry powder and stir fry for about 5 minutes. Add tomatoes and fry another 2 to 3 minutes, stirring occasionally. Once the tomatoes have... hold up. Step 4. Once the tomatoes have shed their fluid, add chicken stock in 2 to 3 parts and mix thoroughly each time. If it boils, skim the top, then add bay leaves and 1 teaspoon of salt and simmer on low heat. Step 5. Heat half of the butter on a frying pan and add chicken. Cook on medium heat until browned and add to pot. 6. Step 6. Heat the other half of the butter in the same frying pan and fry potatoes and carrots. When potato surface becomes translucent, add to pot and simmer on low heat for 30 to 40 minutes, stirring occasionally until the mixture thickens. Season with remaining salt, add garam masala powder, mix, and turn off the heat. Step 7. Serve rice on a plate and pour curry on top. Add Chinese onion and vegetable relish if desired. It's got a little manga moment of where it relates to the manga. Tom's Workers was the name of the shipbuilding company where Frankie once worked. Kokoro, the secretary, was in charge of taking care of the live-in employees. At mealtime, she served home-cooked meals they ate around the table, like a family. From Volume 37, Chapter 353. Well, that is a good recipe. We'll have to make it later. Not sure how you'll go trying to make this recipe, but that's fine. Good luck. I believe in you. If you've just tuned in, this is AZMR on Zed Digital. Zed Digital. Zed Digital. 4ZZZ. Good evening. My name is Liz Witt, and I'm going to be joining Polly every now and then to give you a slightly different experience. But first things first, of course. We can't get the cart before the horse. I should tell you a little bit about myself. It's a beautiful thing being involved with 4ZZZ. You get to know each other over time through hearing people's voice as they speak to you on the radio. I am a Pisces. I am the proud parent of a Murray River short-necked turtle called Greedo. She lives in a big tank in my house, and she splashes every morning to say hello. I'm also an artist. I am an artist, and I love to draw and tell stories. I think I'm the kind of person who has a very active mind. This is a blessing, a gift even, though occasionally it does feel like I'm wrestling a wild animal that lives in my body. And that is why I was so excited when Polly came to me with this idea. Because as much of a gift as it can be, a very active mind is also in some ways a burden. Sometimes I find myself at odds with my thoughts. This usually comes when I am trying to be at peace, and especially when I am trying to be at rest. I often find that when the evening begins to wind down and my mind realizes that it is time to settle and sleep, instead of being lulled into that gentle release, my mind rails against me. And instead of simply lying back and having the absence of thought and feel my consciousness fading away, instead I find myself in an almost daydream-like state of these recursive thought spirals.
I enact scenarios in my head that never come to be, or reenact scenarios that have already happened, maybe ones that I think could have gone differently. It's almost as though I am not in conscious control of my thoughts, but that they take control of me, and the inside of my eyelids become a B-movie horror show of lights and colors, and sometimes the kinds of thoughts and feelings that we associate with negativity, sometimes shame, sometimes regret. There are a lot of well-respected and well-practiced strategies we get told as people with active minds to use to quiet our minds and quiet our bodies. They tend to tell us that we need to lean into nothingness, to note our thoughts and let them drift away. I cannot say that I am very successful at it. It's an odd thing to have a body, isn't it? There are, of course, the usual mysterious aches and pains that are our stalwart companion through the aging process. Not something to regret or resent, but nevertheless, they are a near constant companion, especially when we are trying to simply exist in our body. But those 1,000 little hurts we each carry are so individual as to almost adopt the universality of discomfort. And then we have the guidance that tells us to simply breathe for 4, hold, and release. Unfortunately, I seem to find that single-minded focus on emptiness a fast road to quiet frustration. At the end of a bustling day, carries over to this vibrating energy in the night that transforms that peace and rest into stress. And so I want to let you in on a little secret. It's not always perfect. It doesn't always work. But that's okay. Sometimes you need to just let your mind become distracted. And when our beautiful, ferocious, vivacious minds, our precious, frenetic, creative brains allow that little distraction in, our body knows what to do. And before we know it, the rest can come. So here is my gift to you. I'm going to tell you a bedtime story. Nothing that is intentionally boring. Nothing that is so mind-numbing that your brain begins to craft its own narratives as it seeks that bit of stimulation that it isn't getting. No, I want to trick you. I want to give you a story that is a little bit interesting. I want to give your brain, your beautiful, chaotic brain, a little bit of stimulation so that your body can begin to let go. And watch as your mind follows. So join me as I tell you a story, and I hope that you never hear the ending. The best among us say that you should write from what you know, things that you've experienced firsthand. Well, I'm hardly about to count myself in their number. So tonight, I'll be sharing a story that has never happened to me and will likely never happen to anybody. But who knows? For a moment, let's imagine together that it's going to happen to you. Start by taking a moment to feel every point of your body that comes into contact with something else. Maybe you're lying in your bed. Feel each point of your feet, your legs, your torso, your neck, and your head as it's gently cradled by your mattress and pillow. Feel the softness of your sheets and clothes. Now take a moment to shuffle around. Perhaps if you're in a chair, feel those points of contact of your bottom, your feet, as they touch the ground. Or perhaps they're folded under you, crisscross applesauce. Now stretch and shift your body. Burrow a little deeper into that surface and find the most comfortable position. Take as long as you need doing this. And once you think that you've found that perfect, comforting, cradling surface, take a breath in with me and sigh it out. Release it as a big, gentle sigh. Imagine that things that worry you, that you've carried with you today, are being released in that sigh. Let's do another one together. As you breathe and sigh and let your body feel heavy, imagine that you are beginning to float. The part of your mind that is you, the little ghost that lives in your body, the candle behind your eyes that carries the spark that is only yours, begins to gently travel up and above and out of your body. You can look down now and see yourself as you lie in bed or sit in your chair. Weightless now, imagine yourself traveling further up, through the insulation of your own ceiling maybe, or through the apartments above you, without a care, without a thought, just rising past. And as you pass through your ceiling, you can look down on your house. We so rarely get to see that view of our house as though we are a bird. Rise even further now up into the sky, feeling the breeze and the air move around you, but you are no longer weighed down by the burdens of having a body. So simply enjoy that movement of air around you. And rise even further now and look down across the gentle patchwork quilt that is your town, strung together by little stitched lines of street lights, in the gentle ant-crawling movement of cars, each of them filled with people, maybe going home, maybe going to experience their own rest. You can see the funny crisscross of streets and highways. And further up now you can begin to see the clouds forming in ephemeral wisps around you. Farther up even, and all you are doing now is being bathed in the bright, bright moonlight. And just as you begin to look out over the clouds, the whole city, just a big dancing collection of lights beneath you now, begin to feel the gravity come back into your body and sink gently, gently down a meandering gate towards the ground. And when you do arrive, you will no longer be in your bed. You will be on a bustling train platform as we begin tonight's story. This is The Ghost in the Attic of the Bakery. Our story begins as you find yourself in a new town. Our story begins as you find yourself in a new town, one that you're not familiar with. You'll be staying here tonight through a long, convoluted string of events that don't really matter. All you know is that you're here now. Fill in the blanks about what has brought you to this new place. This charming but humble seaside town. It backs on to a stretch of coastline and wetlands. Not quite the sandy beaches that would make this place a bustling tourist hotspot, but something a little more homely. As the tide goes out, the broad flatlands are revealed. The locals love to take their dogs out onto the sandy flat, let them frolic in the sand and the water. As you walk out of the train station, you can see that the coastline is currently bustling. People going on their evening walks, maybe going to the local fish and chip shop, and sitting along the tide wall, fighting away the seagulls that dog them for just a single chip. You decide to take a stroll along that tide wall with them, passing young parents pushing prams, old couples making their way along the foreshore, and so many dogs. As you walk further along, you see a little string of restaurants and cafes. Each looks inviting in its own way, but you're drawn in particular by the smell of fresh baking bread. You wonder why, even though it's the evening, this fresh smell is wafting towards you. And so, out of curiosity more than anything, you approach the simple wooden building, painted a charming forest green, with the fading letters in gold stamped onto the window that simply say, "Fresh Bread." As you walk in, a small bell that hangs above the doorframe jangles in a merry tune to invite you in. And before you, you see a string of tarts and cakes, danishes and lamingtons, and along the back wall, loaves upon loaves of fresh rolls of bread. A charming older woman bustles out from the kitchen to greet you. Her hair is a steel grey shot with threads of silver, and her eyes are creased at the sides, clearly from a long life of smiles and laughter. She greets you warmly and asks if there's anything in particular you'd like. Now you turn your focus more attentively to the rows of cakes and tarts in front of you. There is, on the top shelf, a collection of petit fours, small chocolate mousses, mini fruit tarts topped with a single strawberry artfully cut in half. You see cream-filled buns and long johns on the next shelf, with blueberry and apricot danishes beside them. Beneath them is a final shelf of cookies and jam drops and scones. Now, you aren't particularly hungry, but your eyes wander back up to that little custard tart with the single strawberry on top, and you decide that you'll let yourself have this little indulgence. She gives you a warm smile as she puts it in a bag for you. And you ask her why it is that they're still baking bread into the evening. She tells you that this is a harbour town, and there are often ships arriving into the evening, full of weary, hungry travellers, and they want to make sure that everyone who comes to their bakery will receive a warm, fresh meal. She seems to know the area well, and has a deep familiarity with her bakery, so you ask her if there may be somewhere for you to stay tonight. She pauses at this, contemplating something. This town isn't quite so popular as to have a lot of options when it comes to motels. But she has an alternative idea. You see, the little 2-story building that houses this bakery used to be the home of her grandmother and grandfather. They lived above the shop their whole life. And while her own family has grown too big over the years to stay, she still maintains the flat. She invites you then to simply stay upstairs. But on one condition. There will be a visitor tonight. A friendly one, she reassures you. But a part of occupying a building for so long means that you get some unexpected tenants over the years. And the flat upstairs, for as long as she's been alive, has played host to a friendly spirit. Her husband and herself take turns every few days to go up to the flat of an evening and spend some time with their ghostly companion. He lives there, you see. It's not so much a secret as just a quirk of the family, something they're all long used to. And so, she invites you to share this space with the ghost that lives in the attic above the bakery. You wonder to yourself, what a fascinating concept. You could hardly turn down such a unique invitation. And so, she invites you behind the counter, through the kitchen, where the next day's batches of dough are already sitting in their proofing pots, through the back door, into a delightful courtyard paved with red brick. There's a dark green wrought iron table sitting in the yard, with 2 matching chairs. In the sole patch of earth that isn't currently paved over, a huge eucalyptus tree has sprouted from the earth. It reminds you that life seems to thrive, despite the odds, in the most unlikely of places. She continues to lead you up the back staircase with its wrought iron handrail to an old door that hasn't yet been replaced. She pulls out a heavy iron key and jangles it in the lock briefly. A door this solid needs a little bit of help getting open sometimes. As she leads you into the room, you're almost surprised by how well maintained it is. You had suspected it may be a slightly dusty affair, but as your eyes adjust to the dimmer light, you see that it is a charming wood-panelled floor with a thick, wide red and blue Afghan rug taking up the majority of the room. There is a window at the front of the building facing directly onto the ocean. And although the waves are gentle enough that you can't hear them, you can see the last embers of the dying sun as they sparkle on the tips of the waves. The room is simply furnished with a heavy wooden bed frame in the corner, topped with a quilt you suspect may be handmade. Across from it is a large wooden bookshelf filled to the brim with books of all kind. Modern paperbacks, an old hardcover atlas, travel guides from foreign countries, picture books, crossword puzzles. You see a well-loved copy of the Australian Guide to Native Birds poking out from its position stacked on top of a complete collection of the Tales of Narnia. Next to the bookshelf is a plump, stuffed armchair that faces towards that ocean window. Off to the side you see a door that leads into a small but clean bathroom. You settle your bag on the bed and take a moment to just exist in the space as your new host plumps the pillows and pushes the curtains open. She tells you to be at ease and to leave whenever you feel the next morning. A baker's work starts early, so you're welcome to come downstairs tomorrow morning for breakfast whenever you like. With that, she hands you that heavy iron key and writes down her phone number on a piece of paper and leaves it on the small side table beside that heavy, solid door. You watch her leave through the courtyard, and she gives you a cheery wave that you return. And you go back inside. As you wander around the room, you see that on the wall there are hung photos of a happy family, some so old as to be in black and white, and some that are clearly taken on a smartphone and lovingly printed out by the loving hands of a grandmother. You begin to go about your wind-down routine. You brush your teeth and change into your pajamas, noticing with some surprise that a patient weariness has settled across your shoulders, and a prevailing sense of calm seems to have seeped into the very foundations of this building. Now that you are clean and dressed for bed, you sit atop the mattress and wait for your guest. As the clock strikes 8:23, you notice an imperceptible wind stir the curtains, though the windows are closed. And as you turn your eyes to that plush armchair next to the bookcase, you see that it is no longer empty. The figure of a young man is sitting in that armchair. He has blonde, tousled hair and is dressed out of time in a loose-fitting white shirt and grey slacks. Or you think that they're grey but you're not sure. He seems to exist without real colour to him, and as he turns his gaze to meet yours, you realize that if you focus your eyes, you can see the outline of the chair behind him. You have met your ghostly companion. He introduces himself as Henry and asks how your day has been. You tell him about the foreshore and the dogs and the train and a few trivial things that led you to this moment. He listens in the way that you are certain his full attention is on you, and as you give him all the little details about yourself, he nods and hums. Now you seem to be at a bit of a loss. You're not sure what to ask a ghost, what would stretch the boundaries of politeness, but you're fascinated to know more about him. He seems to sense that in you, and, without prompting, tells you a little bit about himself. Henry was born at the turn of the century and died a little too soon for his liking. But he doesn't mind being dead. You go back and forth like this, sharing little trivial facts about yourself. And before you know it, you're holding back a large yawn. He laughs at this and then invites you to get more comfortable. So you take his invitation and climb into that heavy wooden bed and find that the mattress is topped with a plush layer of goose down. And so you snuggle between the sheets. You look over to the bedside table and you see that there is a small book there. You ask Henry if he would like it if you read to him for a little while. He would be delighted. One of his great joys while he was alive was to simply sit and read while looking out over the ocean. But one problem with being a ghost is that he can't really pick up a book anymore. And so he would be very, very grateful if you could continue reading him the story that he had been trying to finish for a very, very, very long time. You pick up a heavy, hardcover book off the bedside table and find that an ornate bookmark, topped with a long, dangling tassel, is poking out between 2 pages. So you open the book and see the words Chapter 27 in ornate serif font. You begin to read to him, and while at first you're a little confused by the names and the places, a story very quickly begins to unfold in front of you, of hijinks, of bank robberies, of being on the run from the law. The main character is a gentleman thief with his companion escaping into the moonlight across the rooftops with pockets full of jewels and sensitive documents. You find that you are also enraptured by this book. And as you continue to read to him, you realize that you're both leaning forward closer and closer, as if proximity to this book will let you get to the next part of the story even quicker. Minutes pass, then an hour, and as you read, you feel your hands getting heavy holding that book up. Your eyes begin to slip in their focus and slide across the page. But still, you are entranced by this story. You do another yawn that comes unbidden this time. And you look up to see that now the time is 10:24. That same ephemeral breeze rustles through the curtains, this time accompanied by not quite the sound, but almost the memory of the words, "Thank you." And then, just as your eyes begin to slip shut, you look over to that armchair one last time and see that Henry has departed for the evening. The book slips from your hands and goes gently next to you on the bed. Before you are even aware, sleep folds you into its gentle embrace.